Good morning, aviators. As usual, it's about 2 o'clock in the morning, Friday night / Saturday morning. I figured to get something done on the L-39. I wanted to get some stuff done out of the camera, so basically proceed in getting some stuff done. If I talk for an hour, I really don't get a lot done. So far, I've worked on this about 3 hours, and I'm gonna go ahead and try to finish it off tonight. The first thing I did is, ta-da! I glued the pilots in there. If you recall in the last video, I said you have to cut off a little bit off the back pilot, which is about a 1/4 inch or whatever. Just cut off right underneath the belt and the seam in the back. So now, so it doesn't hit the canopy. And there he is. Now, usually I'll just put in like a couple of little pieces of, a couple of drops of glue just in the corners, just so I can take it out if I need to again. So it wouldn't be that hard to pull out of there. The back one you have to cut off about 1/4 of an inch or whatever at the bottom. The front one you don't have to cut anything. So if you look at the seam right here, I cut it off right there at the seam / belt. And it's the same pilot. Instead of on this side, on this one, I put the hand sideways instead of doing the OK sign like this one. Basically, I just tilted it 90 degrees and glued it on there. It's not 100%. I mean, if you want to go get technical, you can sand it down in there or whatever. It sticks out a little bit. It doesn't bother me. I mean, what bothers me is flying an airplane with no pilots in there. So now I have both pilots, and again, I can just glue on there a little, tack them in there, and then it's gonna fall out right now because I haven't glued it on there. But basically, you get the idea. There you go. There's the two pilots. The other thing I've been working on a lot is the fuel tanks. I have not finished the UAT on purpose because I want to show you guys. If you saw my UAT fuel tank and UAT basics, you already seen what I'm going to show you now. But if you haven't seen that, then it'll be new to you. Basically, when the UAT came in, I already have the safety wire on both sides. This is the side that's going to go towards the main tank. This is the fill. It already has the cap on it. It comes with the cap and the two safety wires. But the cap, the actual fuel cap, came in and basically was like that, hitting the back of the tank. On a UAT, that's unacceptable. The pickup right here is supposed to be about right there, halfway down the line. So since I like putting barbs on my fuel line connections, I put in a brass one, and you can see I made the barbs already on there. They're soldered in there. And basically what I do is I go to Ace Hardware and get 1/8 brass. That's the size for the UAT. Then the second one is what, 5/32. It's a KS brand. Both of them are, so this is 5/32, and this one fits over the 1/8 one. So what I do is I just cut off little extensions, if you will. I'll show you some of them right now. Oh, I cut off the piece there, so I have to sand down the edges before it'll fit inside. But basically, I'll show you. And then what happens is also the 5/16, the 5/32 tubing is the one that goes on the main tank, and basically 3/16 is the next size up, and I just cut pieces off of it and make my my barbs for this one. And there you go, you'll see that it fits inside. So what do I mean by little barbs? What I do is basically I get a Dremel cutoff wheel and I cut off little pieces of the fuel tubing, and basically just put one on top of the other one, solder it in place, and then go ahead and put it in there. The ones for the UAT, it has an aluminum tube in there for the fuel pickup. The problem with that is that's very flexible and they make it the wrong size. Like for example on the smoke pump, this is the one for the smoke pump now. Oh, excuse me, this is the one for the main tank, and I'll show you the one for the smoke pump here in a second. What happened with my smoke pump is I wanted a bigger tube for the vent because I'm using the DreamWorks overflow vents, and what happens is that overflow vent has a large diameter nipple on there, and struggling to put on, you would be struggling to put on, you know, that fuel tube on it. You can stretch it. I mean, I don't like to soften them with heat and then wrap it around, but you can stretch it and it'll go around, and it'll take you a while to do it. Basically, I just get the Tygon large diameter tubing, and then I can put it in there real easily. I mean, not as easy, but this is the overflow tank, I mean fitting, and this is just the cap that goes on there. And while I'm on there, I'll talk a little bit about the vents that comes in the airplane. When the airplane is shipped to you, it already has a little hole in the bottom for the vent, and what they do is they put it right here. The problem with that is right on the center line, right where the two fuselage halves come together, horizontal there. Basically, you know, this is a whole side and this is the other side. That's where they come in. If you ever spill fuel in there, if it's diesel, it'll just eat up that glue and start separating the two halves. I use Jet A from the airport, and that doesn't do it as bad as diesel does. But anyway, the main thing is that to me, that's a bad location for a vent plug. I always put them on the side over here. One of the main reasons is that, you know, on foam airplanes is the glue. On other airplanes, all my other airplanes, is basically I slide them into my van just the way they are, gear up and just slide it in like that. If the vent is on the bottom, then it's going to be scratching the van, or if you ever have a small little leak, you know, then anyway, for many reasons, you know, basically for transportation, I always put my vents on the side here. Now I'm gonna go ahead and finish off this the UAT real quick while I talk to you guys about the, you know, more about the fuel lines. And basically, like I said, all my vent plugs on this one, I replaced the tubing to 5/32 just because I knew I wanted to use a larger tube for the vent plug, just to make it easier to attach the actual vent fitting on there. And that's the only reason, basically. I'll put on some safety wire. I'm not gonna have you guys wait while I do this. I want to get it done in a timely manner, so that way we move along with this airplane. Let me fix the UAT and put in the safety wire on the rest of this fittings, and then I'll show you guys the next step, putting the tanks and everything else back in there. Alright guys, all my connections have been made or have been secured with safety wire. Oh, I missed one right here. I'll do that right now. But basically I wanted to show you this is the cap for the UAT. All the other lines, this is the cap for the main tank, or the main fuel tank. But I wanted to show you guys that now that the UAT will be installed completely, or you'll see that's how far the main pickup goes, and it's right in the middle of the tank, vertically up and down, and then it's centered, you know, left and right, or you know, however you want to say it. It's centered the best way possible on there, so it'll be on there in the center of the tank right there. So with that said, I just put it in there and start tightening it in place, and then I'll do the same thing with the main tank. Oh, I forgot, I had to do one more safety wire. I did all the other ones maybe in about 15-20 minutes, and basically if I'm talking or have to look at the camera while I do this, it just takes a long time. So that's why I did them off camera. I basically cut a piece, I don't know, what is that, 4 inches long, and then I wrap it twice around the line that I'm doing. And again, I showed there's videos on, and even in the last one I did it, you know, I showed you guys how to do that. And basically you hold it in place right past the barb, so the fuel line pulls or whatever, this pressure is not going to come out of the barb, or it's not going to come out of the actual brass tube. Now, I mean, it's common sense. I don't think I should be able to tell you, but if you stick your finger right here or any of the ends, it's gonna go right in your skin. It is very sharp and it's very skinny, so it'll dig deep in there. I've had a couple of good ones, but you know, over time I just get used to it. And I don't have the spinner tool to spin the safety wire. I didn't like it, I didn't enjoy it, so I just do it manually all the time. And I'll spin it and see if it's tight. If the wire still spins around the actual fuel tube, you know, or the brass tube, then I just tighten it a couple of more turns. And there it is. Then obviously if you have your safety glasses, great. If not, just put it underneath the table where it's not gonna jump and hit you in the eye or anything like that. And there it is. Now, even though it's both wires intertwined in there, twisted around, it is still very sharp, and that's why you make the loops and make them you know, turn the edge of the wire inwards so it doesn't cut you. And there it is. It's done. It's got the one at the end by the pickup, right inside the brass tube, and then the outside. So we'll just go ahead and put that brass, or not the brass tube, but the actual cap back in the tanks. And this one is simple since there's only one line. You don't have to worry about the actual what do you call it, the vent line and everything else getting in the way while you put it in there. And you know, you make sure it's seated all the way down, and while it's seated, I'll go ahead and tighten up the screw. And you want to get it nice and snug. You don't want to over tighten it, but you don't want it loose. And there it is. Now if you get a flashlight, you'll notice, you know, you'll be able to see the clunk right in the middle of the tank. This is the UAT. That means it's the UAT is completed. This one over here, the other one, is for the main fuel tank. So I'll go ahead and get that. This is again the main tank I removed from the airplane. Put it in there. Make sure you got the vent pointing up the way it's supposed to be. And I'm going to go ahead and loosen it a little bit just to make sure it's easier to put it in. And go ahead and slide it in. Make sure it's all the way down. It's easy to think, oh, it's seated, but you know, make sure it's all the way in. And then go ahead and tighten the screw in the center. And there you go. There are the main fuel tank and then the UAT. Now, let's discuss that vent plug again. Since I'm using the ones from DreamWorks RC, basically it's supposed to be like a wall mounted, where this will be on the inside. Then there's a little rubber, like a rubber grommet. Well, it's not rubber, it's hard plastic. And then the nut, which will tie in from the inside and give it and keep it in there nice and snug. So this is foam. First of all, it's too thick for the nut to fit on there unless you put it way up here, and I'm not gonna do that. I don't really go scientific of where I put it at. I mean, basically, I'll look for the actual where the old fuel plug is at, and then I go from there. But I mean, to show you guys that I don't, let me remove the turbine from the back. I had it sit in there. To show you guys that I don't go scientific on this, basically what I'll do is I'll flip it over right here. I don't want it in the bottom, I want it on the side somewhere right here. So basically right around there, I just poke a hole, and you know, there's nothing scientific about that. And then just start making it bigger until you get to whatever size you need for your vent plug. I mean, right there, it still needs to be bigger. It needs to be able to fit the vent plug in there. The first one fits in there and still has some to go. So basically just make the hole bigger. This is about the right size, so it's not gonna go in, it's too far. So basically just cut off some foam in there, or make it bigger little by little, or get the drill bit. Since I'm doing the videos, then you know I don't stop and go get a drill bit or stop and go get other stuff. I'm just gonna use whatever I have in there. There you go. This is the elevator spar, and now it's perfectly on there. It's still a little snug, but what I'll do is I'll come back in there and put some CA on it to be able to put it on, you know, so it doesn't move. And before you go, well, how does it get installed and all that? Besides that, this part that I'll glue this part to the foam so it doesn't move. That'll probably render this one useless from now on. But the main tank, put it in there. Put your vent line through the hole first. I'll go ahead and put this on there. And then what I'll do is I'll just get the UAT out of the way, but from the inside, go in there and find your hole, and you'll have to push the fuel line through. I guess it's not as clean as I thought. It did go all the way through, but on the inside it's still a little rough, if you know what I mean. But anyway, get your line through. In this case, it's my yellow Tygon. I gotta if it's not cooperating, like mine, it still has a piece of foam on the inside where the hole, it just pushed the foam out. There it is. So let's see if that'll work. If not, what you do is from the outside, you put a screwdriver, a small screwdriver, and put the line on the screwdriver. There it goes. So now that the vent line is outside, now I can put in my fitting. And what I'll do, depending on how big the hole is, well, I'll do it anyway. I'll put safety wire here, then push it down and then glue it in there. The safety wire is going to make or require that hole to be just a tiny bit bigger, but it's not a big deal. I'd rather have that in there and be secure than worry about whether it's on there tight or not, whether it's on there right or not. But that's how you put in the vent plugs. You put enough fuel line in there that you can push it through, and then you go ahead and put in the fuel line on the vent line. Usually it'll have the nut, you know, push it through, and then the nut will keep it in place. But like I said, in this case, since it's a foam airplane, and that right there where the vent line is, the foam is thick. It's not gonna make it easier for me to facilitate to putting in another the nut. It's too thick. So what I'll do again is I'll just put in this safety wire here, and that just means that line won't come out real easily. And since this fuel line is very flexible, you'll see that it squeezes on there. The safety wire squeezes the vent line, or the actual fuel line, the fuel tubing here. This is Tygon fuel tubing, which is, you know, good for Jet A, kerosene, you name it, regular gasoline. And this one, I don't need to make the safety wire that big. Again, face it away from you. And there we go. There's the safety wire now. you'll see how much indentation the safety wire is making in there. Now, usually I make a little ball or something. Since this one has to go through the fuselage, I'll just try to make it flat, so it doesn't take as much. It takes up as little space as possible when it goes through. And I mean, I don't know if you can see it. It's pretty flat in there, and I just don't want it to scratch me while I put it in there. Since you'll need to tug on this when you put in your overflow or your vent tank, that's why it needs to be kind of glued in there a little bit. And then I'll just, you know, first test it. There it is. It's good. But you know, when you connect the vent tank here, and you have to disconnect the tank, or when you have to put in the plug, the actual if it's not tight in there, if it's not secured, it'll just spin when you put your cover on there. This is the cover, and what you do is you screw it on there, and well, it tightened pretty good in there. But I mean, as soon as you try to untighten it, it might spin. It's still not doing it, but guess what? We're still not gonna risk it. We know it's in there. We know it's on there, right? The fuel tank is complete. The installation is complete. So let me get it out of there. And like I said, I'll just add a couple of drops of CA on it, just to make sure that it stays put. That'll kind of render this vent plug unusable at a future date because of the CA, but I'd rather have that peace of mind than anything else. So here I'm going to apply some medium CA to it. Let it go around the grooves or and there you go. There's my vent plug. This airplane is going to use 2 vent plugs, so I'll do the other one on the other side in a little bit, but that's the main thing. Wanted to talk to you guys about, I told you guys you could do a trick with the zip ties, and here is basically one of the zip ties. And basically what I do is, once you put it in, you wrap the zip tie around the corner, because when you look at it, it's like egg shape right there, so it's not going to connect, or it's not going to grab evenly all the way around. So what you're doing is you're putting it in the piece of this piece of zip tie, folding it around, and you're putting it here, so then when it does lock, it's even all the way around. And it's, you know, it's fun to do the first time until you get the hang of it. You know, you close it up to where it's almost all the way down, then you fold it in, and the trick is to get the zip tie past the little ridges, or, you know, so you get more of a wider cover there. And it, like I said, it's always fun putting them in there, because, you know, you got the zip tie fighting each other. If you want, you can take the piece from another one, just like I was showing you there. But basically, once the zip tie is in there, where you want it, then you use pliers, hemostats, whatever you got to close the zip tie, and then there you see it. It's folded out into itself. The other end is in there, and inside the zip tie here, it's a perfect round circle now that's grabbing it. And you can cut the loops. You can cut the loops if you want, so you don't have to be seeing them. You just basically cut, you know, like you would cut the excess part of a zip tie, and there you go. And now you don't have to see them. You'll see part of it, you know, the 2 parts that stick out. Here, let me cut the other side. But basically, there it is. You know, now the zip tie is grabbing evenly all the way around on that fuel barb. And I mean, it's up to you how much time you want to spend on this. For example, this is the cap for the smoke tank, and this one has a barb right here, because that's the fuel line where I'm gonna be the fill line basically. And what happened is the original fill line, or the reason I changed it, because I didn't like the way it was basically the smaller tube and then it was going to a piece, a bigger piece, just so it can have the cover on it. And I'd like, well, that's silly. It just basically had one piece of tubing inside the other one, and then the cap where you fill it up. And I didn't like that. Let me see if I can find it. Well, I threw it away already by now. Oh, here it is. This was the fill tube for it. If you see, this is like 3mm, and this is 4mm. And basically what happened is, and this was the cap. So basically what they did is that they had a piece of tube inside the other one, a fuel line, and I didn't think, you know, that was good enough for me. So that's why I changed it. The other fact is I dislike this aluminum fittings or tubing on it. I mean, if you have to bend it to make the vent tube, is very easy for them to break if you don't do it slowly. This one didn't break, but oh well. The one that was in there originally broke on me, so that's why I replaced it. But anyway, back to this. All three lines have fuel safety wire in the fuel line, but this one doesn't have a barb, and I just did that on purpose to show you that it's okay if you don't want to take the time to do them. That's entirely up to you. You can, you know, choose not to put anything in there. You can choose to put in zip ties on every single one of them, and that's all on your discretion to see what you like. I did add the larger fuel line on purpose, and just because, like I said, on this little tubes that it has in the 4mm, with the diameter of the fuel lines or the fuel caps that I'm using, it would be very hard to fit that tube in there. I was looking for the other cap. I know I have one in here because I set it aside. This is the cover. That's the cover. Alright, I have to find the other one. But basically, you know, fitting this tube around that vent plug right there, that vent plug is probably 6mm. This is 4mm tubing, but the inside diameter is probably 3mm. So you would have to stretch it. Usually I put them inside, you know, like hemostats or something like that, and just spin it around and get it in as far as possible. Take it out, do it again. And it takes a very long time to stretch it properly without applying heat. Plus, if you try to just shove it in there, you know, it takes a while. And that's basically it. That's why I changed it. So now that that's done, I showed you how to do the connections. My UAT and the main fuel tank are in there. We'll move over to the actual turbine and where to install it and everything else. This is Ace X80 number 100. Yeah, I'll go ahead and install it in here. I'll get the camera over the hatch so I can show you guys how to space it out and everything. Alright guys, so now that the glue is dried and the turbine's ready to be mounted, I'll show you guys the pump first. This is actually a pump out of my 140. I marked it in there so I know it's from the 140, but guess what? From a 60 to a 140, the pump is the same. We'll just have to calibrate the throttle again. And you do that by, when you start the turbine, you throttle it up slowly, little by little, till you get to a max RPM. And you keep the stick there, you keep the throttle stick all the way up until it reaches, the turbine reaches and settles on the max RPM. Now, again, the fuel line from the front, from the UAT, is going to come back here. The fuel pump has 4 connections on it. One of them is just the loop, and the purpose of this loop right here is to get rid of air bubbles. The top has the 2 lines as well. Has an incoming, which is this one, and then the outgoing, which is this one. This one goes to the turbine. So basically this will be my manual on and off valve that I'll have from the line connect that's coming from the UAT. I'll plug it in right here. Well, basically I'll show you. It'll go right here on this line right here, and it'll get connected there, and then from there I'll have my on and off switch. But basically right now I'm just gonna make the holes. I have this looped. This will be from the UAT and this will be to the turbine, but I have this loop right here right now like this, so it doesn't spill any of the fuel that's already in there. you'll see that it's not 100% full in there, but there is fuel in there. And like I said, I usually just put them up in the front right here. And everybody says, well, how do you drill the hole in there and all that? You know, with the hatch on the way. Basically, I don't drill the hole. I get the L wrench, excuse me, the driver, and I put in the hole in there. I'll figure out where the one outside needs to be, which is right around there. And then the other one, I'll match it. First I'll mark it, and then I'll get the pump out of the way. Kind of like this. Well, but the screw fell off. But you get the gist of it. I'll just, what I do is I'll just put the pump in place right there, and then just mark the hole. And in this case, I'll just press it down. And then, you know what? I can just go ahead and put the screw all the way in there. And you can see that I'm right up against the wall of the foam here. And then I'll back it out, put some CA. A lot of times what I'll do is you can move the pump to the side to be able to drill the hole and to put in the screw to begin with. Get that hole out of the way. Get my CA. Actually, I'll make sure that the threads went all the way down, which I think they did, but let's double check. And it's all the way through. I'll back it out. And once it's out, I can put a little bit of CA on it. Again, you want to make sure you're not drowning the hole, and by that I mean that you're not using too much CA where it'll just clog up the hole or stop it. Put a little drop, let it disappear. Do it again. Now if you see you have too much glue in there or too much CA and it's clogging up the hole, then get your screw, the same screw, and then just go to town in there. Start putting it back in and then pull it back out. And now, since this one will have CA on it, what I'll do is I'll get rid of this one, and I won't use it right now because I don't want it to get glued in there. It was trying to harden in there already. So I'll get rid of that one because it has a glue on it. And I'll just wait for the threads to dry a little bit, and then I'll go ahead and put in the turbine. So somebody actually did ask me this. They called me up and they said, well, how do you put the turbine, the turbine pump in there with the hole being, with the wood being, the hole being too far back, and, the turbine cover or the hatch area being on the way? Is the easiest way is to turn the pump sideways like this and go ahead and put in your screw, and you can go all the way down right now while the pump is sideways. I'll show you. And there's a hole all the way down. There's the screw all the way down, and the pump is in there. So now you just rotate it back to the position that you wanted it on to begin with. There you go. And now that it's there, you can do the other hole. And now back to your on and off valve, or this manual valve that's on there. I can put it between the fuel tank and the pump, or I can put it between the actual pump and the turbine. And I'll show you what I mean in a little bit. Alright, I'll come back and put some CA on that hole later on so we can continue. But basically what I was saying is I can have the pump, I mean the fuel line, this on and off valve between the actual pump and the turbine right here by just putting a piece of tubing, and then whenever I start, you know, I can shut off the turbine from here, or I can put it in the main hatch over there in the front. So now that the fuel pump is in there and out of the way, I'll go ahead and put in mount the 6 screws for the turbine. Now while I put these in there, I'm going to tell you why I went ahead and did the 1.5 inch instead of just the 1 inch or the 0.75 or 3/4 of an inch. And basically what it came down to it is I'm going to be using the smoke on this later on. I have the smoke tank in there and I was getting it prepping it ready so I can install it in here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount the smoke pump in the opposite side over here, and I'll show you guys how the injector goes in there in a bit. And what happens is the injector has to go between the turbine and the bell mouth and into the pipe. So basically I just made it easier for me to install that later on when I'm done with the turbine. I don't know if I'll, you know, go from day one with the pump on it, with the smoke pump on it, meaning that if I'll put it in there right after I'm done with the rest of the installation in here. But for now, and there's, get all 6 screws started in there. And now I think I'll stop the tape, the recording right here right now, and that way I can try to squeeze in the radio installation on here. But you see basically the turbine is in there. I'll mount those 2 screws in a little bit. So basically there's 4 connections in the ECU. There's going to be one for the pump right here. It only fits one way. You cannot plug it in backwards even if you tried, because the connection for the pump and the connection for the ECU are different type of connectors. This is what I would consider a female. This is what I consider a male. So there's no way to plug them in wrong. I usually keep my ECU on the receiver compartment up in the front, and then on the other side is just a data terminal and your data terminal, battery for your turbine, and your GSU and the receiver. Where it says PPM, that is for your receiver. This is the battery, the other MR30 connector. Alright, I'm going to stop it here, and then we'll come back after I've done some cleanup and go over the radio.